One. Yo, 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 yo. Welcome into the Crispy Captain Show, Behind the Curtains with your favorite capper series. My name is Chris, or at Crispy Captain on Twitter. I handicap sports and provide free betting analysis. I'm the host of the Crispy Captain Show on YouTube and Twitter, where I analyze sports and teach the community how to be better, smarter, betters, and to be profitable, be more profitable long term. I'm also a big student of the game, though, right? So I've had my successes, but I'm pretty open minded. I'm a pretty open minded guy, and I'm always looking to learn, as most of us should be or are. So I figured if we're learning, it might as well be from some of the sharpest minds in the gambling space. I decided to reach out to some of the greatest, most successful, inspirational cappers that I've come into contact with in the gambling space and pick their brains. By conducting these interviews with them to take the audience behind the curtain to learn a little bit more about their favorite cappers as a capper, but also as a person. So, with that being said, let's welcome in my guest. Saniyah is in the building.
What's going
She's been
on?
capping for what's up, Saniyah? She's been capping since 2020, sharing her plays with the public since 2021. This lady is an artist, the co-founder of 100 Nights Community, and a sports betting content creator, a real sports betting content creator for FanDuel. She resides in Memphis, Tennessee, and she specializes in handicapping the NBA and the WNBA. A big thank you to the extraordinary lady that for being here today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in Saniyah. How you doing, Saniyah? What's going on?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely, Saniyah. Absolutely, man. So one thing I like to do before we get straight into the questions is I like to connect the dots for people, man. So everybody that I've reached out to, to do these shows with, to bring on and pick their brain aren't just random people on Twitter. I feel like Twitter and just the gambling space in general has become so oversaturated. Like everybody and their great grandma, their great grandfather who was working in World War II, everybody been handicapping for so long, and everybody's a capper nowadays. So I wanted, I always like to take the people behind the curtain just a tad bit because if anybody knows anything about me, when it's business, right? So when I'm in the space, I'm not really talking about a whole bunch of extra stuff. So the show is a way to kind of take the people behind the curtain to, get to know their favorite capper, but also to know me. So I like to bridge that gap. And then when I'm bridging that gap right now, Saniyah is someone that let's go back, almost 7 months now because today is June 30th. Just for the people, this is being recorded on June 30th. Shout out to the Brooklyn Nets for about to lose KD. That's why I put the hat on today. He just requested a trade. But today's June 30th. It's been 7 months since we were doing the late night spaces. Shout out to Cap again, man. I come on here religiously and shout out to El Cap. He was doing the late night spaces. He let me up one night, and the rest is kind of history. So shout out to Cap. Still trying to get Cap on the show too. So Cap, come on the show. But Saniyah used to jump in Cap spaces. We kind of rubbed shoulders there. I followed her work. Was like, she really like works for FanDuel. It's like putting out videos. We've been cordial since. She's hopped in my spaces. I'm always looking to support as much as I possibly can. Also, I think it's just so extremely important that women also have a space in everything, right? But also in like, in gambling, right? And I was reading an interesting stat like maybe 2 months ago, a month ago. So now one of my female friends actually shared it with me, and the stat was that there's actually been more females to register for sports books over the past year than males. And I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. So I'm looking for the come up, man. I'm always looking for the come up. Even when I did my Twitter spaces, I would always, kind of, I used to have a segment before, it blew up where right at towards the end, I would just, allow all the ladies or any lady who had a question or a comment or wanted to share a play, I would always, just kind of give them the floor because the space is kind of overran by men, and that's not the coolest thing in the world. So, welcome in, Saniyah. What's going on with you? How you doing? Talk to the people, man.
I'm doing good, and I appreciate again. I appreciate you inviting me onto the show. Like you said, it's surprising that over the last year, more women have been jumping on. It's surprising, and it's not. So, sports. Typically, people think of sports as like a man thing, but You got WNBA, you got women playing soccer and tennis and pretty much any sport out there, with the exception of American football. You have women playing those sports. So it's a surprise, but at the same time, it's not. I know there's a lot of people who, a lot of guys who probably had their girlfriends start up a page so we can get a little bump.
Shout out to my mama. She got an account. I ain't gonna say which one, but she got one.
Yeah.
Little sign up bonus.
Wrong with the sign on bonus. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say that much.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's get into it tonight. Let's talk to the people, man. I know it's a lot of people who are extremely inspired by your story, as I am as I am, of course, too. Um, so let's get into it, man. Let's run through the questions. Let's get into it. Let's get into some content. So tonight, before handicapping sports, you're a person, you're an individual, right?
Yep.
What are you typically doing in your free time? Like, what are your hobbies? When Sanaya's not like handicapping games and trying to find edges in the WNBA and the NBA, what's she doing?
So, like you said in my introduction, I am an artist. You know, I started filmmaking and music. I write music, hip hop and R&B. I've been doing that for a very long time, making that, you know, before it was the content creator, it was an artist. You were an artist, you creating stuff. So I've been doing that for as long as I've been breathing, pretty much. And as of late, I am a mama of a little girl, she's about to be 2 years old. So she takes up a lot of my time. But when I'm not caring for her, or I'm not making music, some kind of art, I'm definitely looking at these stats and trying to see where we can find an edge.
Trying to find the edge for sure, for sure. So now that's amazing, man. I feel like the more people like that I've come into contact with and I ask them about this story, I feel like the common theme is like as handicappers or like gamblers, we spend so much of our time just kind of being laid back, you know, like we have families, we're watching sports, we're like, you know, like you said, creating things, but it's not a lot of, you know, just other things in general. I feel like we're pretty laid back people, laid back individuals. So, yeah, I could definitely relate to that. 4 year old son. So I know how much, you know, consumption of time that takes away from your day.
Yes.
You know, like you said, 2 years ago he was two, and then 3 years ago he was one. So it's
Yeah.
been a, you know, gradual progression for sure. Transitioning tonight about sports, right? Did you play any like growing up, like any organized sports, any leagues or?
I did. I started playing basketball when I was maybe about 10, and was playing through middle school. Didn't get into it in high school, but basketball has always been a love of mine. Grew up with it in my house. My dad was a big Chicago Bulls fan, like many people were back in the 80s. So, you know, grew up watching Jordan and Pippen and Kukoc and thinking like, damn, I can do that. And WNBA wasn't that big back then. So, you know, I grew up looking at these male figures like, I really like basketball. That's something that I think I could do. And my dad kind of pushed it on me and my sisters, and we all started playing. And it was something that I fell in love. I fell in love with the game.
Nice. So how long did you play tonight? Did you play all the way up through like high school or?
Nah, I didn't play in high school. I tried out, but I don't actually. I walked out of the the tryout.
Okay.
Know what? I don't like this competitive level, but it was cool because when I was playing in middle school, my dad was my coach. So we were playing in a rec league. I was living in Japan at the time, so
Nice.
in Japan we had these rec leagues for the different military kids, and I was just playing in the rec league, really enjoying it, trying to find my pocket. You know, I wasn't quite the ball handler, so they couldn't put me a point guard, but I did love to shoot. So I was the small forward and the shooting guard back in the day.
Okay. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. A little Steph Curry out there in Japan.
You
Okay.
know it.
I like it. I like it.
Sir.
Okay, so transitioning a little bit tonight, what do you think I want to talk to you specifically about you're the first lady that's ever graced the show. Hopefully there's more to come. But I want to talk to you about, you know, some gender specific things. So first and foremost, do you think there's a significant difference between male and female sports handicappers?
Um, I would say No, not really. From outside of handicapping, if we're just talking about sports bettors in general, they've found in studies that like women are less emotional when it comes to betting sports. But I can't say the same for me when it comes to a sport that I love. If I'm capping something like hockey or baseball, my emotions aren't as invested in that as they are NBA. Now, if we're talking NBA, I'm gonna go with the Grizzlies every time, win, lose, you know. So, but from a handicap point, I don't think that there is much of a difference in that.
Okay. Okay, that's a good answer. I like that answer. What about credit tonight? Do you feel like female or lady cappers or just bettors in general get the credit that they deserve with the work that they do?
Hell no.
No?
No.
Why not? Talk to the people a little bit about that.
I think there is a clear bias, and it's not something that's intentional, but because there are so many men who have been sports betting for so long, they tend to look at women as inferior in that sense where, well, you've never played the game, you don't know what you're talking about, or okay, your boyfriend must have got you into this. I've heard everything under the sun when it comes to that. And don't let a woman be attractive and be hitting her. Like there's so many women in the space of sports betting and handicapping that are sharp, that are skilled at what they do, and they get looked at differently, or they don't get the respect that they deserve because they're simply a woman. But then on the other hand, you have so many people who are supportive. So it's kind of, it's a seesaw. Because on one hand, you do have the trolls, especially on Twitter, um, just talking shit just because you're a woman, and you know that you wouldn't get that same flack had you been a man or had your account been anonymous. But the fact
Right.
putting ourselves out there like, hey, I'm a woman, I like this sport, I like these players, let's go here. Some people are going to question it regardless, but you can't make everybody happy. And sometimes, no matter how much you prove how badass you are, somebody's not going to buy it. But it's kind of like, I mean, we all have our lane, you're not meant for everybody. Chris B. Kappen has one of the dopest live stream spaces in Twitter. But I'm sure at the end of the day, you still have people who are talking shit like, "Oh, this man is trash." Da da da. There's all.
Absolutely, Sanai. How Sanai, so we didn't even discuss this, but I'm curious, like how is there like an alliance? Like is there like a female like capper alliance? Like do you have like other female cappers that you talk to? Like how do you guys kind of handle that?
So, there was a point in time when there were, I'd say, about 10 of us in a group chat, kind of just like going back and forth. But it's a lot of minds and a lot of, personalities to deal with. So they don't all
Interesting
fit.
takes.
Yeah, yeah. And, I'm one of the more laid back ones, I would say. Um, so I'm kind of just in the background, kind of watching everybody else pop their shit. Like, okay, all right, you say that. Um, but there were some strong personalities. Not quite an Avengers. There's no Avengers alliance. But I will say that there are many women cappers who I do respect and support, like Liv Moods, Erin Kate Dolan. Those are just two of my favorites where you see the progression and you see how serious they are about these sports and about, the content that they're creating. So very dope.
Absolutely. That's an amazing answer too, Sanai. I'm happy to hear that at least you guys like at least you know how to like, handle it because you've been doing this for a couple of years now. So,
Oh
like
yeah.
you said, the scrutiny and the criticism is definitely going to come. Like you said, everybody's not for everybody. Everybody's not for everybody.
No.
So once the earlier you understand that, I think the better off you are putting yourself in position to be like, hey, it's not me, it's them, right? Or like it's cool that I'm not for them or they're not for me, right? Because we're not all going to be on the same page when it comes to like anything in life, right? We live in America where, it's freedom of speech and freedom of choice and everybody wants to do their own thing and, and that's totally fine at the end of the day. But I love the way you answered that. No, I was just saying, tonight, talk to me a little bit about what happened as far as Saniyah the artist to the transition to Saniyah the capper. Like how did that happen? We talked about you starting in 2020. Like what inspired you? What got you going?
Yeah, so it was right around the time of the pandemic. There was a lot of, I think a lot of people joined in at that time, and that's kind of when sports betting became legalized here in Tennessee. So I was looking at it on FanDuel and a couple of the other sports books and thinking, maybe I can make a few dollars looking at some of these NBA games. I watch the NBA games and feel like I have an edge here or there. I think we know this team is a third quarter team. We know this team blows the fourth quarter every time. So why not let's look into it. And I'm a player person. I do love my teams. I've been a Laker fan back in the day with Kobe. But really I followed players. So it was Kobe, Steve Nash. Those were two of my main players growing up. Iverson, just kind of watching them, no matter where they were, who they were with, who they were around, just really admiring their game. So I admired these players, and that's really well, it really started with Jordan, honestly. Just watching these players and being fascinated with their game specifically. So then when I discovered sports betting and realized that I could take that passion for the players and the knowledge of the players and apply that towards props on their points, rebounds, assists, that's what really intrigued me. And I was like, oh yeah, if I just do a little bit more of a deep dive, really get the numbers and crunch them, I can start to understand what's going on and make knowledgeable predictions to kind of help build my bankroll and then eventually help other people. But jumping from content creating to sports betting, like I said, it was around the time of the pandemic. I'd been making music. I've been in my home studio. I was just here. And as I was getting into it, I realized more and more that there were a lot of people in the space who were making picks, who were, posting how they felt about it, their opinions, but there weren't a lot of people who were teaching other people how to understand it. And me coming into it brand new, fresh, I had no idea what was going on. So, you do your Google search. What is the spread? What does this mean? How do I this, this and that? And like, I realized that there was a lane open for content creators who were passionate about sports betting, but who could also teach the newcomers, because sports betting isn't legalized everywhere yet. And it wasn't
Absolutely.
widespread. There's still so many states who don't have sports books like FanDuel and things like that. So I made that jump, and I was like, you know what? In the process of teaching myself, I want to help other people. I want to help other people learn. So that's really where I started with that. Like, hey, let me start with the basics. And that's when I don't know even know how I stumbled upon gambling Twitter, but in the midst of it, just realizing that I was in the space with so many different people who had their own techniques, who had their own experiences, and just kind of picking those brains. Because, like you said, and the reason for this show is tapping into the people who have been the most successful at it, finding out what it is that they did and applying it to your own. So that's really where it all started. I was like, oh no, I got to teach myself. Let me help teach some other people too.
I love it, Saniyah. And that's what I'm all about too. I'm trying to make everybody more profitable long term. Just learn techniques, figure out what work, what don't work,
Yep.
different strategies, how to find that edge, how big of an edge do you actually need to feel confident and make that an official bet versus a lean. So I'm all for it, Saniyah. I love that. I think that's such a beautiful answer for sure. So you talked a little bit about, Saniyah, about what, like how you guys started. Would and you went through the process, is there someone that you credit, like is there someone that inspired you to be like, yo, if they can do this, I can too. Or somebody to be like, yo, Saniyah, this is how you need to like, this is how I would do it. You know what I mean? Anybody kind of show you the ropes? Who would you get that inspiration to, if anybody?
You're not gonna be surprised when I say Tom, L Captain. L Captain was really the first one that I saw. It was before like he created the VIP community for everybody. I just saw what he was doing with his value plays. I think it was around the time that he did the Blake Griffin value play on the NBA playoffs, and it blew my mind. I was like, this man is smart as fuck. Like,
Yes,
what
he is.
what kind of process are you going through? Like, where's your mind taking you with that? So he's really the first one that inspired me to really take it more seriously, not in the sense of creating the content, but in the handicapping and finding that edge. There's Yeah, he unlocked like a whole community, a whole mindset of people who realize that there's more value to be had than money line and spread and over under. Like, nah, do that digging. Find, like, this man watches footage. He like all over the place, but he gets it done. And that was a huge inspiration to me in the very beginning.
Absolutely, Saniyah. I mean, that can't be understated. I always give Cap his flowers every time I get the chance as well, because he opened my mind to so many just different things, man. I mean, it's so many tickets I could go through, and I was never even a part of Cap's Discord. We just kind of chopped it up, and to the point where we were cordial, and then we started texting each other, and it wasn't even on Twitter. So yeah, shout out to Cap, man. I remember. Man, I remember who it was. I can't think of the player's name. Chicago Bulls guard. They got the triple doubles, like plus 4,000, plus 5,000. Cap crushed it. Nobody else is on this triple double that night. I can't remember who the player was, but yeah, yeah. Cap got a bunch of stories that's just like that tonight. Also, like even though he had a VIP, he was still about like teaching, right? So he would open those spaces up at night with like, yo, here's some resources. Like, I'm gonna answer your question, and I'm gonna tell you the process, and it still don't mean you're gonna be able to get the result that I got. So I don't even mind sharing. You know what I mean? Like his eye for the game, his knack for the game is so crazy. So yes, definitely a big shout out to Cap as always, man. I can never get this man enough flowers for sure. Transitioning a little bit more, Saniyah. Long term though, like what are you thinking? What is this? What do you want this to be? How do you envision like Saniyah Cap in 3 years from now? Like, is that a thing, or like 5 years from now? What do we want to grow? We want this to grow into.
Um, so long term, I want it to remain fun and enjoyable and entertaining. I think a lot of times people get drained because they take the fun out of it and the joy out of it, and they're focused on getting the number, and look, God forbid people are trying to pay their rent through sports betting. Like,
Absolutely, all time tonight.
man, I cannot tell you how many times I've had people in my DMs like, hey, can you just throw me $100? Like, bro, if I had it to give you, I would. But at the end of the day, like, this is really capping and sports betting. As long as basketball is around, as long as the NBA and the WNBA are relevant, sports betting will be relevant to me. And with that, it's just I just want it to be fun. Of course, at the end of the day, being profitable is super important, because if you continue to dig yourself in a hole, it's not going to be fun.
Not at
So
all.
yeah, no. I really, yeah, I just want to have fun with it. I want to learn and continue to get better with it, because I think there is room for everybody to grow. Nobody in this space is perfect. Um,
Absolutely.
we all, just like we're creating community to be able to sharpen each other, because iron sharpens iron. So if we're all talking
Absolutely.
about it, figuring out what works, what doesn't work, then we can all profit and continue to elevate through it. um yeah, I want to be able to have fun and you know enjoy the fruits of my labor while they're here.
Absolutely. So I think that's such a perfect answer. Like, because you're right. Like, anything in life, if you're not having fun with it, then you might as well not even do it, right? Like, if it becomes too toxic, or it becomes like too much hard work, or you just like you said, you go on a winning streak to the point where like like I'm not gonna bounce back from this. Like my bankroll is almost depleted. Then it is really is no fun. It makes you not even want to watch the game because if you watch it, you want to bet on it most of the time, right? There's that dopamine, that part of the brain that just like, oh, I need to have some action on this game in order to watch it, that I think a lot of people, struggle with. Me, no, not so much because I'm a Laker fan, unfortunately, and I watch all of the Laker games, but I'm never putting any money on the Lakers with how seesaw we were. But for a lot of people, like, oh, LeBron playing tonight. Oh man, I'm a Laker fan. Oh, I'm putting money on the Lakers tonight. Bron going for 40, right? Or it's the opposite. Bron playing tonight. I can't stand LeBron. Oh yeah, give me the other team, right? They plus points. Yeah, let me get them plus points. So that type of stuff is definitely going to happen. But just kind of bringing it back full circle. So I think if you're not having fun with it, like anything in life, like just get out of it. Like it's really not worth it at that point. So yeah, you do want to make sure you're checking those boxes to make sure, like you said, it's fun, it's profitable, and just everything else that goes into what would make you actually want to do it and why you started doing it. So I definitely agree with that. So I agree. As far as sports, and you talked about NBA and WNBA. Which one of those? I know. So it's WNBA season right now. So holla at your girl Saniyah. She got some picks. But which one would you say is your favorite, Saniyah? Like I know you're a big NBA fan, you're NBA head, but like you said, you do the WNBA too. Is there one that you would choose over the other?
Uh, for the time being, until they get the recognition that they deserve, and it blows my mind. It's kind of in a different lane, but still the same topic. I just don't understand why the WNBA players aren't getting the treatment that they deserve. They're not. I've read like tweets where some of the players are talking about their riding in coach on these airlines. Meanwhile,
Mm-hmm.
players riding in private jets, and it doesn't really make sense. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a process. I'm sure in the beginning of the NBA they weren't riding in private jets, obviously.
Right.
It'll take time. But right now I'd have to say NBA. NBA's
NBA. Okay.
NBA is definitely my favorite.
Yeah.
Transitioning again tonight. So let's talk a little bit about gambling Twitter. Let's talk a little bit about just Saniyah's history of gambling in general. What would you say, Saniyah, is the craziest thing that you've seen? Gambling Twitter related or just like Saniyah's life gambling related?
Uh,
Get a people an interesting story.
I don't want to say any names.
You can say some names if you want to, or you don't have to say any names.
All right. So, one of the funniest stories, craziest stories, there's this guy. Well, first of all, I had so many people who were like trolling me, especially but the more you realize like you don't feed into that energy, they kind of die off. They realize, oh, I can't get a reaction out of this person. They're no fun, right? So it's all about entertainment for those people. But there was a guy, and he was capping sports, mainly tennis was one of his big sports, and I think golf. And I wasn't following him, but I knew him through the community. You click on the gambling Twitter hashtag, you can see a lot of these people. And I'm sure a lot of the people that I followed and that followed me were sharing his stuff. So whenever I saw his stuff, I wasn't tailing it, but I like to support people. It takes nothing to hit the like button, right? So I would like a post. I've never retweet, but I would like a post and just keep scrolling. Didn't think twice about it. He hits me up in my DMs one day asking me why I unfollowed him. And I was like, what are you talking about? I never followed you. And he was, no, you did follow me. I have the screenshots to prove it. And I was just like, okay, well, if you have screenshots to prove it, you're more than welcome to show me where I followed you, because I did not. And that kind of, it rubbed me the wrong way, because it was like he was trying to, and I don't even, like, I guess to someone with 200 followers, an account with 5,000 looks like a lot. To a person with 1,000 followers, 11,000 looks like a lot. But you and I both know that follower count doesn't mean as much as interaction.
Not
So
at all.
I can't even remember at the time, I had a few thousand followers. And I think he was trying to get me to push his stuff or like share his stuff. And it was just the way he went about it that was weird. And he was kind of a weird dude because like he was making rap videos about pics, right? So, like, oh, okay, all right. So the same guy ended up having to owe Sosa the locksmith is one of the funniest, kind of most intense, like hilarious cappers on
That's a
Twitter.
fact.
And this guy ended up having to owe him money and like deleted his whole account, and just like this whole persona that he built up, it just went away because he owed somebody some money. And it's like, you really got the shakedown. Just like, just messed up your whole brain, dude. Because you think, I guess, that he thought that his pick was better than Sosa's, and Sosa washed him, and it just hurt his feelings. And I've had my feelings hurt before too, but you don't go deleting everything that you built just for that. But yeah, that was crazy. Um, that's just one of the stories. There are so many stories of people who have been like stealing tickets. I don't get that. I don't get why you're screenshotting someone else's ticket and claiming that it's yours. Does it make you feel good to pretend that you have $200,000 in your bankroll? I don't. There were so many people, especially in like 2020, 2021, when people were just like hating on El Captain for doing giveaways, for giving people money. And it's like, because they weren't one of those people, now you're ungrateful, and now it shows how ugly you are,
As
because
a person,
that's
absolutely, man.
like, it was just, yeah, gambling Twitter has the potential to be a very lucrative, knowledgeable space, but there are often times when it's petty and messy for no reason, just because people
Hmm.
kind of screen and type on a keyboard. So
Yep, it's
yeah,
not a real place. That is a fact, man.
all the
What,
weird.
most people, I was gonna say the same exact things. That most people can, conduct themselves in orderly manner, and have the amount of respect that they need for others. And then, like you said, it's just some knuckleheads that's going, like everything else in life. It's gonna be somebody that's gonna be way over here when everybody else is going this way, right? So, yeah, that happens, and it's unfortunate, but it's life.
I think we're going to deal with trolls a lot, no matter what community of gambling Twitter you're on. But I think the worst type of people that I've experienced are the scam cappers. So the people who claim that they've won this amount of money, so you should join their VIP, you should do this and that. And there's so many people who are new coming into the space that they don't know any better. They see these
Yeah,
tickets, they don't know. They don't. So that's why spaces like yours and mine and all of these big accounts, they're important, so that we can let people know, like Jerry's one of those people. He fights for the people. If somebody's scamming somebody, he'll be the first to blast it out to all of his followers. So I really respect those kind of people. But yeah, we got to watch out for the scammers.
absolutely. So I'm glad you shared that, because somebody's gonna be watching this video, and it's gonna be, sports gambling is gonna be legalized in their state for 17 days, and
Oh,
they're gonna upload some money and be ready to go, put it all on something, and join the wrong Discord, or pay for something that they don't need to pay for, or whatever the case might be.
yeah.
So yeah, that's a valuable lesson. Do your homework, dot all your T's, well, dot all your I's, cross all your T's, before making any of those commitments, those monetary commitments, for sure.
Yeah.
Excellent stories, and I appreciate you sharing that, for sure. And it's a lesson in that, right? Because I wanted this to be fun, but I also wanted to be educational. So I think that's a funny story, but especially with if you know anything about Sosa, that's a funny story. Just hearing his name being attached to it, but but also I think it's a learning lesson in there as well. Transitioning a little bit tonight, you are for the people who didn't hear earlier, you are in Memphis. You're a Grizzlies fan. You come into space. You've talked about backing the Grizzlies on the days that you backed them, and I know you've made some money off your Grizzlies, whether it's the spread or the player props, if it's Ja assists or Jared Jackson Jr. rebounds or his threes.
Yeah.
Talk to the people and tell them a little bit tonight about which team or player has won you the most money, like, for the longevity of your betting career or just the last season, whatever you want to share with the people.
Yeah, so I'm a huge Grizzlies fan. I'm not from Memphis, but since living in Memphis, you kind of get that blue and gold in your blood, and it's not something that I can look away from. When you feel greatness, you know it. Ja is great. Bane is great. Jaren Jackson, phenomenal. He was my defensive player of the year. So
Mine too.
yeah, so it was one of those things where why not back the Grizzlies? They made me a good amount of money this last season, especially when we recognize and realize that, hey, when Ja's not playing, these books are gonna think that they're the underdog, and they may be the underdog on paper, but Tyus Jones ain't gonna let them lose. So
Not at all.
yeah, there was a lot of times when it was like they were underdogs for the game, and it was like, oh no, you gotta at least put a few dollars on that right there.
Absolutely.
And last MLB season was my first time actually kind of experimenting with it, and Tampa Bay Rays made me a lot of money last MLB season.
Okay.
I've been keeping an eye
Okay.
on them. They've been doing pretty good this season, but yeah,
Yeah.
Grizzlies and Tampa Bay Rays. Those were my two go-tos.
Is like can you think of like a wagon play tonight that just like hit for you like pow pop? Like is it like like Jared Jackson Jr. threes or like Steven Adams rebounds? Like was it one that you just like kept going back to for like a week, 2 weeks, and you was like, yo, I'm like racking up on this?
I tell you what, it was Bane's threes there for a good minute, and then he kind of went on a cold streak and scared me, and I was like, you're not playing the same. And then we saw like come out of the woodworks with the threes. So it was Bane for a good minute. And I think he's gonna get back to that place, especially Milton being traded, and Lord knows what's gonna happen with
The rest of free agency, right? Yeah.
all knows who knows what the hell.
Yeah, no,
Like
absolutely, yeah. Shout out to Milton to D'Anthony Milton, like you said too, tonight, because he was one of them guys when Ja wasn't playing. Him, Zaire Williamson, like them guys was hooping, man. So shout out to them guys for sure.
and any
Um,
I was out, Tyus Jones, you could bet Tyus Jones assists for sure.
Assists, yeah. They had their line sitting at 5.5. They moved it to 6.5. They moved it to
Ooh.
7.5. He was just still clearing it. 10, 9, 11. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So all right. So transitioning just a tad bit more tonight, like frustration wise, what would you say is the most frustrating thing about gambling in your eyes? Or like handicapping, just like the space in general? What do you find that you're griping the most about? Whether
Mm.
it's to like other people or to yourself?
Um the biggest frustration I have is finding a system that works 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then everything just flips and it doesn't work anymore. And then you go on a cold streak for a minute and you're like, I don't understand. It was working before. It's not working now. But that's got to be one of the most frustrating parts is just hitting cold streaks with systems that worked at a point, and then having to go back and figure out, okay, well, are the books getting sharper in this area? Should I look at these type of props? Should I maybe stay away from this team? Just trying to figure out what is going to be profitable, because what's profitable now may not always be profitable long term. So
Absolutely.
yeah, just having to adjust and figure out what's going to work for today and tomorrow.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's so many lessons, and that's the gym tonight because there's so many lessons within the NBA season, right? So in the very beginning, of course, the players are just kind of, trying to round in the form, right? So they're not going to be the best versions of themselves, or you'll get this player that's really, really hot, and you're like, oh man, like this dude's killing it, right? But that's not sustainable either. Not through like a whole 82 game series, and then you get, the 2 weeks before the All Star break where you're like, man, like all right, I'm betting on this team, and it's like, man, they already at All Star, they on vacation mode already for the All Star break. Like, you know
Right.
what I mean? Like they didn't lost like the last 4 games, and they was just on a 12 game winning streak. Like, and so I couldn't agree more. So like, then also, within the last year, we had all the COVID protocols and the health and safety procedures. So 5 minutes before the game, this player not playing tonight, or this player, just man, it's just like so many different things, like you said tonight. So it'll definitely throw your process off, which is why you have to reconfigure or just kind of reset if you need to, right? Not even change your process all the way, but just reset. Maybe you take a day off, maybe you take a week off, whatever it is to get to that space where you can connect with your process a little bit better. Let some time go by, have some leans that you don't play, track those, and then get yourself back into the swing of things for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, that's another gem drop by Saniyah, man. Saniyah, talk to me a little bit about the biggest lesson you feel like you've learned in handicapping sports since you started. What would you say is the biggest thing that you've learned?
Don't chase. Don't chase.
That's a good one. Talk to the people a little bit about that, Saniyah. Why not? Why can't I chase that ticket, Saniyah? Why
Man,
if I bet on the 7 o'clock game and I lose, why can't I bet on the 10 o'clock game too?
you
If
will
I ain't
lose,
cap it.
you will lose your bankroll doing that. Yeah, it's one of those things where, of course, we wanna bounce back. We want to bounce back. Damn, I lost a unit here. I lost 2 units here. Let me go ahead and just make up for it in this game. And then because it's predicting, we have no control over this stuff.
Absolutely. You say
You
that again.
you don't want to blow your entire bankroll in a matter of a day because you're trying to make up for the units that you lost and then snowballing that into 100.
A bigger L, yeah, yeah. It was a little L at first. It was lowercase, and then you got to a big L, and it's like 72 font. It's a big, big L at the end of the day.
Just like sometimes you got to take a day, you got to take a week, you got to step back, clear your head. Okay, let me not. I think the problem with chasing is that it's our greed taking over our logic. It's the feeling of I gotta get it back. I gotta make this cushion. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. And I don't think greed really pays off in the end for anybody. So
Absolutely, Shania. Man, that's another gem. That is a gem right there. And I also think, Shania, that we chase because, I do a really good job, I think, myself of being disciplined. I teach it to people. I try to be a preacher of the stuff that I'm practicing. So I try not to do that. And most of the time I don't. But if I'm looking at the slate, like you said, and it's 3 7 o'clock games that I really, really like. So you're like, all right, cool. I'm gonna cap 2 of those and try to find a play, or I try to cap three if I got enough time. But then it's like 2 late games too, and I don't really like either one of them. Like, this team coming off, a road trip and they just got back home, so I don't really like them. This other team, they on the second night of a back to back in this other game, but they should win. So I don't think I'm really gonna touch it. And then you look at you look up and you somehow you just go 0-3 in the first 3 games. You like, oh, now I like them last 2 games. I gotta find something in them last 2 games. I gotta at least put a little something on them. So I think that's a lesson in itself, is that you don't have to chase, because the worst thing you could do is to chase. Because if you do chase in that way, especially if you didn't give it the proper time that it deserves, right? There's a process for this stuff. It's the lines, the books set these lines really, really sharp for a reason. They're not giving away free money. So when you see that line sitting at 2.5, you got to decide whether you think they're gonna win by 3, or you think they're gonna they're gonna they're gonna lose by less than 3. So I think that's so invaluable tonight. That's a bar right there for sure. That's definitely a bar. I appreciate you sharing that tonight. As far as yourself, tonight, what would you say you've learned the most about yourself as a better?
uh what have I learned about myself? um I've learned that I do. There are times when my emotions do get caught up in it, and sometimes when I do need to step back and take a break. There was a good minute when every night I was just looking at my phone, in these spaces, just kind of consumed in it, and I had to pull back. Like, girl, you got a whole life outside of this. You cannot. And a lot of times people get lost in that, and that's something that I realized that if I didn't have the self control, I would do a nosedive into it. But yeah, I didn't have the self control that I thought I did in the beginning, but I've been working on that, flexing that muscle. So we getting stronger in that aspect. I used to do chasing back in the day. I used to chase.
Absolutely. We start by chasing, right? We start by parlaying, 100 different things together, all that. So yeah, it just shows your growth, and it show the person that's out there right now that's still chasing their losses, that's still, putting 12 leg parlays in on a nightly basis, that's still, not able to manage their bankroll. It shows that, there's hope, right? It's two people on the screen right now that's telling you that you can overcome that. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to try to hit the long run. It's called the lotto ticket for a reason, right? So yeah, I mean, another absolute gems, and I appreciate you sharing that with the people as well.
Of course.
Um, one more question, well, two more questions tonight before I get you out of here. Um, First one, do you ever remember a cold streak that you've been on, that you've had, and how did you overcome that? Share that with the people as well. I think it's going to be a lesson in this one as well.
Yeah. I mean, I had a cold streak recently. I think it was towards the end of the NBA playoffs, with Boston and Golden State, and then it kind of rolled into MLB season, where I was making picks that I thought, all of my picks I feel are good. They're knowledgeable. I'm crunching numbers, I'm seeing what fits here, what fits there, and then it just doesn't hit. And we can get frustrated and we can quit, or we can get frustrated, go back to the drawing board and see, okay, well, how much was I off by? Why? What's the reason? Was it something I looked over, or were they just that sharp? Sometimes the books are just that damn sharp that you can't, like, there's no hope
No
for.
wiggle room, right?
Sometimes it was at a point with my cold streak. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make these picks, and then I'm gonna fade my picks. I'm just gonna do the opposite. What I think is gonna hit, what makes sense. I'm just gonna go the opposite of that. And sometimes those were actually hidden, and it was scary because it's like, okay, so at that point they're kind of taking the logic out of it and just flipping it on its head. And some people say sports are rigged, some people don't. It's still up for debate. When you
Hmm.
got Steph Curry's wife talking about shit's rigged, I okay. But yeah, at that point I had to step back, man. Like we said a few times now, there's nothing wrong with taking breaks. If I had $100 bankroll and it dwindled down to 50 and I'm not feeling confident, I can step back, and when I come back, that 50 is going to be there. Your bankroll
Hmm.
is going to be there if you don't touch it. Nobody else can touch it. So that's on you to manage that, and realize what it is that you want done with it. So I think when it got into MLB season, I was doing player props, and I was like, all right, these player props, everybody that should be hitting hasn't hit at all. So let me step back. And then I started on a more broad scale and was doing money lines and spreads. And that's kind of when I broke that streak. All it takes is one or two wins to make you feel,
Hmm.
all right, I can breathe a little bit.
Hmm.
I don't have this bad omen on me. I just gotta recalculate, reconfigure. People can't be afraid to take breaks. Like, who cares what anybody else on the outside thinks? That's a lot of my pressure came from that. Like, no, I have all these people on Twitter who are dependent on me for these free plays, and who want to see this and that. But at the end of the day, they're not paying bills. I gotta pay bills. So
Absolutely. Saniyah, it's so many gems that you just dropped right there. I hope people picked up on that. What I immediately thought of, Saniyah, is like you said, when you could, like, you just need one bet to hit, right? Or you need two to hit. you need to have a profitable night versus having like a losing night. You need to go 2-1 versus going 1-2, right?
Right.
And I think about it like a 3-point shooter, right? You just need to see the ball go in. So you
Mm-hmm.
know that all right, cool. I'm still flicking the wrist right? Like everything can get back to its normal self. So I think that's a gem. I think back to the finals tonight, like game game 5, right? Boston is at home. Just they won they lost game 3. No, they lost game 4. They're at home for game 5. Uh well, no, game 5 was in Golden State. So so game 4, Draymond's playing like trash up until this point, right? Like he's having the triple singles. Everybody's talking about how he doesn't need to do a podcast. And Steve Kerr pulls him out the game at the end of the third and doesn't put him back in the fourth until like only a couple minutes left. He's heated on the bench, like, yo, I need to be in the game. But Steve Kerr was really like challenging him, like, yo, you do need to be in the game, but you also need to sit out here so you can kind of see what you're doing. For me, that's like taking the break, right? And for Draymond in the gambling aspect, if we were comparing that, he didn't want to take that break, right? He was forced to take that break by Coach Steve Kerr. When he went back into the game, he was a lot more effective. And he talked about it on his podcast, right? Like just being able to, not even if he wasn't scoring, being able to, find his teammates, being able to rebound the ball, play good defense, set his teammates up. So I think that's a pretty good analogy for exactly what you're saying, Saniyah. Like take those breaks, put yourself in a position where you can be successful long term, and it doesn't have to always be tonight. I
Right.
absolutely love that, Saniyah.
That was a gem, because why? If you don't take your break, you will be forced to take your break when you don't have anything.
Absolutely, yep. And you'll be reloading too. You'll be reloading, putting some more money on that book for sure, for sure. So Saniyah, I got one more question. I appreciate you for being here. I'm delighted that you could make the show today. But I got one more question I want to ask you, Saniyah. I want to ask you about working for a sports book. So you work for FanDuel, right? Like that's big. Like you know how many people would like love the opportunity to like work for BetMGM or like Caesars. Like you actually work for a sports book. Like what's that like? Like talk to the people and tell them whatever it is that you want to share about that.
Yeah, so I've had that's actually one of the biggest questions that people ask me is, yo, you work for FanDuel? How did you get with FanDuel? Where did you apply? How did you get to them? So this is the beautiful thing about my story with them, and about your story, and about El Captain's story, and about all these successful people in this space, is that you're doing you, right? So I was creating the content that I enjoyed, that I felt needed to be out there, and they reached out to me because I was putting it out there in the universe on Twitter, teaching people, helping people, realizing where I fit, what my niche was in this lane, like where there needed to be a Saniyah. So just making those videos, the bet the bag videos, talking about, educating on the basics of sports betting and things like that. They reached out to me, the content manager, and was like, "Hey, we've seen your content, you know, and we'd like to work with you. We want to know if you'd like to work with us." And for me, FanDuel at the time when they hit me up, they were my main sports book. They weren't the sports book that I started off with, but they were the one that I gravitated towards. Not only, the interface is beautiful in comparison to some of the other ones, and it's
And
just
comparing to like almost all of the other ones.
right. So it was a seamless process because I'm already using the sports book. They're my favorite to use. I'm tagging them and all this stuff. Why not? So that's really where that started, and since then it's been really fun. So for anybody who's in that space where they want to get signed on to a sports book, first of all, you got to ask yourself why do you want to work with a sports book? What's the reason? You want to just get paid by them? That's easy, but are you creating content worthy to be paid for? um so yeah, it was me creating content to begin with. That's what really gravitated them towards me, is the fact that I was doing it on my own. They don't want to have to hold somebody's hand and show them, okay, well, we'd like you to do it like this. Like, no. I'm sure you've had plenty of opportunities presented to you since you started doing this and really been in your own lane. You're not comparing yourself to anybody. You're doing what you're comfortable with, what you enjoy doing, talking to the people that you like, and those opportunities gravitate towards you. And that's how it is in life, period. Just do you, and the things that are meant for you will come to you.
Such an organic answer. Such an organic answer. I love everything about this. And I, like you said, just, be who you are. And like you said, the opportunities will fall into place. Somebody will see, whatever's for you, it will find you. You know what I mean? Like super organic. I absolutely love it. And everybody can't say that they've done an interview with somebody that works for a sports book, but I can. I've had Saniyah on there. So shout out to Saniyah, man. Shout out to Saniyah. Saniyah, thank you so much for coming on. Before you leave, I want to give you the opportunity to, tell the people how you can be found. Tell the people, what you got going on. Tell the people about your partnerships, of course, with FanDuel, but just everything. Your time is now. Talk to the people. What you got for?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, thank you to Chris B. Cappin for having me on the show. Y'all have to check out his spaces, check out his show. This man is a man of the people, just like a few of the other ones that we've mentioned. Y'all can find me at Saniyah X, pretty much all platforms, Twitter, Instagram. I also have an Instagram for my sports betting on Instagram. Well, duh. It's called Bet the Bag 101. You can find that on Instagram. And I am also co-founder of 100 Nights. You can find that on Twitter. It's actually 100S Nights. But there's 4 of us. It's me, Marco, Whack Patty, and T Money. And these guys are sharp in MLB. Marco's on his road to 300,000 right now and is looking mighty fine.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, just, check out FanDuel if y'all haven't. Hit me up if you need a link. You feel me? And y'all be blessed. Never be afraid to hit up my inbox. Never be afraid to hit this man. We got the answers for you. If we don't have the answers, we know somebody who has the answers.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Saniyah. Thank you again for not just coming on the show, but being the first lady to grace the show. Like I said, hopefully there's so many more. You're definitely someone that I look up to in the space and someone that I've connected with well since I've been a part of gambling Twitter and just gambling in general. You've always, just been extremely supportive when I've DM'd you to ask you questions or whatever the case might be. You always get back to me. So I appreciate, just all the little things like that go unnoticed that people don't know. You know what I mean? So thank you, Saniyah, again for being here. Y'all definitely make sure y'all give her a follow on Twitter. The WNBA season is here, and I'm pretty sure she's cashing in that. The NBA season will be here before you know it because, that's just how the off season goes.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed the show, man. We've come to the end of the show. Like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to either DM me on Twitter at crispycappin, that's 2 P's and 2 N's, or email me at crispycappin@gmail.com if you'd like to see your favorite capper on the show, if you think they'd be interested in being interviewed. Be sure to show the show some love, man. Leave a thumbs up on your way out. Subscribe, turn the notification bell on if you enjoy content like this, of course, because there should be, some more to come. I appreciate everyone for tuning in as always, and always, just showing support, man. When I first started, we were talking about Cap earlier. When I first started, Cap actually purchased 10 Crispy Cappin shirts and just gave them out to the community. It was like, yo, Chris, figure out, who like I'll do the giveaway, whatever the case might be, but I want to send you bread for 10 shirts. And Cap sent it to me ASAP. Didn't even know I was even doing it. So shout out to people that's, supporting. Absolutely, it's always gonna be love, from me anyway. So yeah, shout out to you guys for always supporting, always looking out in all the various ways, even if it's just a comment or a DM on Twitter, thanking me for something that kind of help educate. And the last thing I always like to say is let's just keep educating ourselves. Let's keep getting sharper with our picks. Let's keep growing and let's keep smashing the books, man. Until next time, good luck on all your WNBA bets, your soccer bets, and your MLB action, man. I'm out.